Police weren't searching for a killer. They were responding to concern. What they found instead was a crime scene so extreme it would take years to fully confront inside a courtroom. Early that day, officers were alerted to something disturbing in a public park in Las Cruces, New Mexico. A place usually filled with families, with joggers, with children and dog walkers. What they found was unmistakable. A man's body had been left in the open, and nearby his head. The scene was secured immediately. Detectives arrived knowing this was already beyond routine. What they didn't yet know was that the person responsible hadn't fled the area. As detectives worked the scene, other officers searched the surrounding area. And that's when they noticed a man. He was sitting quietly in a nearby area of the park. He was just sitting there on the floor under a tree. His name was Joel Arciniega Sáenz. He was 25 years old, and he was not far from where the body and head had been found. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't asking what had happened, he was simply sitting there. Given the proximity and timing, officers detained him and brought him in for questioning. The interview room was plain and quiet, white walls, small table, a camera recording everything. Joel leaned back in his chair as detectives began asking simple questions. Where he'd been, what he'd seen, why was he nearby in the first place? Almost immediately, something felt wrong. His tone was flat, his answers lacked urgency, and his emotional response didn't match the seriousness of what police were investigating. This wasn't panic, it was detachment. He was gone, he was out. Up to this point, it looked random. Two men crossing paths in a public park, but investigators soon learned that wasn't true. According to police, Joel knew the victim. He was James Garcia. Not well, not as friends, but they had spent time together in the days before the killing, sleeping in the same park, sharing space, moving in the same orbit. This wasn't a chance encounter. Whatever happened that day came from a connection that already existed, and that changed how detectives viewed everything. While the interview continued, updates came in from the crime scene. The victim was confirmed, identified as 51-year-old James Garcia. The placement of the body, the location of the head, and Joel's presence nearby, none of it appeared random. Detectives began mapping timelines and movements and locations. Slowly, the picture sharpened. This wasn't someone who'd stumbled onto a crime scene. This was someone who never really left it. With the evidence mounting, detectives returned to the interview room. The tone changed. Joel was no longer being questioned as a person of interest. He was being confronted as a suspect. He was formally arrested for the murder of James Garcia. What began as a response rooted in public concern had become one of the most disturbing cases the department had ever seen. But the story didn't move quickly. The case stalled. For years, proceedings were delayed as the court ordered multiple competency evaluations, assessments to determine whether Joel was mentally fit to stand trial. The delays frustrated the public. They stretched the case out, and they left the victim's family waiting without resolution. Justice in this case moved slowly. In March 2025, the case finally reached a jury. After hearing the evidence, jurors found Joel guilty of first-degree murder. Years after the crime, accountability finally arrived. He was convicted for the killing of James Garcia, bringing a measure of closure to a case that had haunted investigators and the community. A park became a crime scene. A man found sitting nearby, and a case meant to be simple became something far darker. Justice, though delayed, was delivered. But for the community and the family of James Garcia, the place where it all began will never feel ordinary again. Until next time.